On today's show, we'll cover the bad, worse, and ugly from last night's 5-0 Senators loss to the Rangers in New York City.
And we have a SensCentral Citizen up in Manitoba. It's Rudy.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, and Pillsy, I don't even know where to start. What a pathetic performance last night. Senators lose 5-0 to the New York Rangers, and if it wasn't for video review, it would have been 7-0, which I think would have been more indicative of how the Sens played.
Yeah, I mean, it was just awful from top to bottom, other than the video coach. Shout out Mike King getting those challenges right. But yeah, this was not the performance you wanted to see at Madison Square Garden up against a New York Rangers team who you're trying to keep down in the standings. And Ross, if the Ottawa Senators would have won last night's game, they would have found themselves third in the Atlantic Division. Now, I know it's still a tight race, but it would have been so sweet for Sens fans to look at the standings and see them there. But that's not the case. We're still in the top wildcard spot, but things are... last night's loss did not help the Ottawa Senators. Let's just say that.
3 teams tied for that wild card position. Ottawa, Montreal, Boston. Boston's played one extra game. They're also in action tonight in New Jersey. Sound familiar? Ottawa just got a win there. We'll see if the Devils can bounce back and get a big win. Sens fans will be rooting for it, but it is as tight as they come. Columbus, 51 points. Rangers with that win at 50. Philadelphia with 50. You got 6 teams within 2 points of each other in the standings. It is going to be a complete carnival ride to the finish of this season. So last night felt like it slipped away. It was the Sens' 5th game in 7 days, and you could even go back to last weekend's back-to-back as well. They played a lot of hockey right now. All teams are, though, so it's no excuse. I pointed that out on Twitter, and people were like, hey, Rangers were playing 5th game in 7 nights as well. So it really just came down to the way they played was not winning hockey. Turnovers in their own zone. No shots on goal. They had 4 in the first period. They had more grade A scoring chances than they had shots on goal because they kept trying to make the pretty pass that did not end up resulting in anything.
No shots on 2 power plays. Like, this team just could not get anything towards the net. Did they not listen to my keys to victory, Ross? God.
Shoot the puck, man. And we'll get into later on in the show how the Sens' top players are struggling to score over the last 19 games. A stretch where the Sens have been really good on the record side of things, 11-6-2, but they have not been able to get production from their top players. But we'll save that later on in the show. One thing we didn't really touch on in the postcast last night, and it was the, let's say, the highest blood pressure moment for the team that had barely a pulse otherwise, and that was the melee behind the net where Brady Tkachuk runs over Igor Shesterkin. I'd argue he kind of got pushed in a little bit too there. Then all hell breaks loose, and Igor goes full Undertaker coming out of the casket. He was down dead, it felt like, in the crease. All of a sudden, he goes and attacks Brady Tkachuk, who gives him the old one shot, one kill. You know the deal. And all melee broke out from there. What was your take on that? And did you think that once Shesterkin engaged himself in that scrum, making it a 6-on-5, should Anton Forsberg have skated down the ice and joined the pile?
I mean, first off, like, Shesterkin was making it look like he was going to be out indefinitely and like maybe a serious injury. Like the way
I was worried about the sniper in the building later on, too, when Amadio cut behind him and he went ass over tea kettle.
Yeah. Now, well, I'll get to that also, but let's stick to the melee here.
Okay, one embellishment at a time for you.
Yeah, exactly. Let's work through it here. Brady does kind of move his hip into Shesterkin, but that shouldn't have been enough to fully knock him down. it's the Rangers player pushing Brady into him that knocks him down. And obviously tensions are high, so that starts stuff, especially with the act that Shesterkin pulls, kind of going back and forth on the ground and lying down and really selling it that he's hurt. And then all of a sudden he sees that Brady is kind of available, and he just, like you said, he just pops right back up, no problem at all, and goes after him. And Brady has a linesman, I'm pretty sure it was Rempe also on him, and Shesterkin goes for him, and Brady just gives him one quick pop, and Shesterkin's down again. Like, if you're a star goalie and you're hurt on a play, you would think the last thing you would do is get involved in a scrum involving Brady Tkachuk, because then he gets popped and falls down, and then you got guys skates there. There's chaos going on. The last place you want to be lying down is in the middle of all that. So that was a questionable move from Shesterkin for sure. And then the Forsberg one is tough, Ross, because look, this team cannot really afford to have another goalie down to injury. We've talked about this when talking about what we're going to do with 3 goalies, and if you lose Forsberg to waivers, what or a trade or what have you, what that does for this team's goaltending depth. So part of me is like, I'm kind of glad Forsy didn't get in there, because goalies, when they fight, we've seen they're not exactly built for fighting, and that's a good way to get hurt. But it would have been a good show of confidence from his teammates that, hey, I'm in this with you, and we're getting pumped right now. We cannot take this lying down, and it would have been a good show. But I think in the end, it's probably the right decision that he didn't get involved in that.
I just think it would have been a big bonding moment, because at least after that game, you're just like, hey, at least we got each other's backs, all of us.
It's like when you go out to the bar with your buddies and things aren't going your way, but then you get into a fight in the back, and whether it goes your way or not, at the end when you're drinking your beers at the end of the night and you ordered a pizza, you can all laugh about it and be like, hey, we had each other's backs.
We had each other's backs. But the Ottawa Senators need to find each other's backs and get into tomorrow's game feeling a lot better, or pissed off. Play mad. That's fine. You should have confidence against Boston based on erasing a 2-goal. The fact that last night's game was 2-0 going into the third period blows my mind. Like, that was a 7-0 game after 2 periods, and Ottawa, the expected goals and everything in the third favored Ottawa, and it was just score effects taking place. Once they got that power play out of that melee, then Amadio takes the tripping penalty on Igor behind the net, where, like,
let's get into that.
They bumped each other.
So the issue I have here is,
I'm also of the mind that if a goalie comes out to play the puck, they should be able to give hits and take hits behind the net.
Yeah, there's a reason they paint lines and have a crease. Like, that's the goalie's territory. And if you get in there, then you're subject to goaltender interference, goals being called back, all those things, right?
Or 5 people punching in the face.
Yeah, apparently. But the issue I have with the Shesterkin Amadio one is it's clear that Michael Amadio is coming in with speed, and he's going to try to put pressure on Shesterkin or get that puck. Shesterkin decides to leave his net and play the puck, and I don't have an issue with that. That's fine. He's allowed to do that. He's within the trapezoid. That's cool. But what he does is when he plays the puck, he turns extra wide, and he has to know at that point there's nowhere for Michael Amadio to go. Like, what is Amadio supposed to do? I'm surprised he doesn't hit him even more. And the reason it looks so bad is because Amadio clips his back leg with a lot of speed. And anyone that's played goalie knows if you get your leg clipped, you're swinging out like crazy. But that's 100% on Shesterkin and not Michael Amadio. And I mean, Amadio's like the most like chill guy. Like, you know, there was no ill intention there, and he even after is like, all right, are we serious here? So that one's on Shesterkin 100%. Even as a hashtag goalie friendly show, Ross, I can't give him any benefit of the doubt on that one.
No, me neither. But when we're talking about 2 scrums and a tripping penalty as the game recap, you know, it was a brutal effort for the Ottawa Senators. Just had nothing going. 20 shots on goal now in both of the last 2 games. Great goaltending saved them on Sunday in New Jersey, and it couldn't save them tonight. So the Senators fall 5-0 to the New York Rangers. And if you are, self-loathing and you want to go watch the postcast from last night and be upset and have that kind of a Wednesday, then by all means, it's available wherever you get your podcast. But we're on to the next one. We got a great SensCentral Citizen for you coming up. And then we're going to look at the Senators' last 19 games. Ever since they beat the wheels off the Anaheim Ducks, had 3 power play goals in that game. Drake Batherson had a hat trick. Drake Batherson had more goals in that game than he's had in the 19 games since total.
Spoiler.
More stats on the other side. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Select Quote. In sports, having a winning strategy is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the Stanley Cup Finals. The same goes for life, guys. Having a strategy like life insurance from Select Quote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. Select Quote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they've helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets Select Quote apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage for up to $5 million, no medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you'd think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Go to selectquote.com/lockedonnhl today to get started. One more time, guys, that's selectquote.com/lockedonnhl. Select Quote. They shop, you save.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. It's our pub in the heart of the Glebe. They've got great food, they've got great drinks, and awesome people all around. So you can go alone and have a good time and meet new people, or bring a crew and go to watch the game at the GLEBE Central Pub. They've got all sorts of events, and our favorite is the Sens Shuttle to and from the CTC for just $17. They've got 3 shuttles coming up in the next week, and it is Saturday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let's be among Sens fans there at the GCP Shuttle, and let's keep the Leaf fans out of the building. Get your tickets at the GLEBE Central Pub website. They also have a shuttle next Thursday against the Washington Capitals and Saturday, February 1st against the Minnesota Wild. You can get your tickets on the website. Just click it. And did you hear about us on Locked On Senators? Click yes and let them know that we sent you. The GLEBE Central Pub is awesome. They also have a great discount for you citizens out there. That's 10% off your bill when you go on an Ottawa Senators game day. Works out well with the shuttle. Get your shuttle ticket and then save the equivalent on a great meal at the GCP. So get there early, get a bite to eat, have fun with friends, and leave an hour and 15 minutes before the game. It'll bring you right back 15 minutes after to 779 Bank Street. The vibes are free at the GCP. All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. We are sticking in the prairies, my neck of the woods, bringing on Rudy, who is basically in the CTC with the banners as jerseys in the background. Sharp setup, man. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, fellas. How's it going?
Going great, man. We appreciate you jumping on, unfortunately, after such a piss-poor performance last night. But what are your thoughts overall on the team right now?
I think the team just needs to figure out just to keep sticking to playing consistent hockey and hopefully get Allmark back healthy and just get everyone in sync for the going down the stretch here, because it's pretty tight in the East and it could go either way right now.
Did this loss really alter your opinion of this team, or is it just one of those like, hey, you're going to have a stinker once in a while, let's just move on from it?
It hasn't altered my opinion just because that's what the team showed so far this year. So I honestly think this next game they're going to play great. I think they're going to show up. So yeah, more of a just move on from it. It's not what you want to see as a fan, but they've done it a lot this year. Then they've came back and then they've strung together, 2, 3, 4 good games in a row. So it sucks and you don't want to hear it, but it's one of those games you flush down the toilet and then reset and move on to the next.
Now, are you concerned about the lack of offense from some of the top guys? I mean, Brady Tkachuk now on an 8-game pointless streak. Tim Stutzle, what was the stat, Ross? Like 2 goals in the last 18 games or something like that?
No, that's Drake Batherson sticking with
Oh,
top
that's Drake?
guys.
Yeah.
Timmy's got 9 points in his last 18 games.
Yeah, so like the top guys, the point production has really dried up, and the Sens just aren't scoring like they used to, apart from that Boston game. Like, sure, the defense is a lot better, and the goaltending, Levy's figured it out, and Forsberg's had a good game here, but is that offense starting to concern you here?
When I became a fan of the team and the way they used to always play under Brian Murray, I always thought they were a really defensively responsible team first. I haven't seen that for years. That's why this year's exciting me. I think they're finally learning how to play defense. I was a goalie growing up. You guys were too. Like, it starts at the back end and goes forward. To me, it's one of the only positions in all sports where your goalie literally can win you the game. In football, if you have a good quarterback, you still need a good O-line. I think they're going to figure it out. What I've seen is some of the guys are just doing too much. Tkachuk, I've never worried about. I think he leads by example, and most nights he's always better than not. I think it'll come around for him. Batherson, I think he's one of those guys that'll just take him a few games. He'll get a few goals one game, and then he'll get back into a streak, and then he'll have a cold spell again. I've always kind of saw him as a guy like that. It sucks that it's gone on for this long. The one I've actually been frustrated kind of watching Stutzle sometimes lately with, he looks nasty out there, but I think he's almost trying to do too much, even though his point production has still been okay, but I think he just needs to shoot the puck more. It was in the overtime game against Boston, I think. Like, he had a great chance, missed, and then he went and he hit his stick against the glass. So that's an extra 1.5 seconds where you could have just turned and back checked. So I think a lot of the young players are still learning in the league, but they're showing improvement. And over the long term, I'm not actually too concerned about it at all. I think it's just part of the growth.
So with that, one of my favorite questions to ask, because they've been split up now for quite a while, are you on the team of putting Stutzle and Tkachuk together, or do you like having them each on their own line?
I like them together. I do. I think, especially with Timmy, I think he plays a lot better with Brady. There's certain games and teams they play against with matchups where it does work good to separate them. But overall, I do like them on the same line together.
Yeah. Pilsy, what do you think about that?
I feel like I'm just nervous if you stack them together, what that does to the rest of the lineup. Now, once guys start coming back like Perron, I'm hoping can have a major impact here. Hopefully that can balance out the lineup a little bit more. But I really like the line of Batherson, or, well, we'll go left to right here, Ross. Brady, Norris, and Batherson. I think that line can work, and it should work. So I don't mind sticking them together, but the idea of just not having the right winger for Timmy yet still is frustrating, and I think it's something they're going to have to solve externally through a trade.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, the only alternative is David Perron, if he can come back and live up to a $4 million bill. But
that's what I mean. I'm hoping that when he comes back, you maybe see that, but I don't know how confident I am.
Well, yeah, this late in the season too. Yeah,
you got to get back up to speed, and he's not a spring chicken either. So we're going to need to see it pretty quick here when he enters the lineup, whether it's tomorrow or later on this weekend. Rudy, we buried the lead here a little bit. We always want to know how you became a Sens fan, especially you're out in Manitoba, right?
Yeah. So, for me, honestly, so I'm 26. Growing up, I always played hockey. When I was really, really young, like 4 or 5, I thought New Jersey was cool just because of their jerseys. I liked Brodeur, didn't know anything else otherwise. Anyway, once I turned 8 years old, it was actually not even really when they were really good in 2006. It was the 2007 playoff run. I was 8 years old. Team was good. Started watching them. Kind of just joined the bandwagon then and stayed on it ever since. I liked how they played. I thought they were a good defensive team. I love Brian Murray. That 2007 playoff run kind of did it for me. And then I just stuck with it ever since. I didn't really want to go back to Winnipeg once they got a team, because I was in grade 7, I think. So I already liked Ottawa. Then Ottawa was better too than Winnipeg for quite a while there. And then I just stuck with them.
Yeah, don't look at the standings this year, Rudy. Hey,
It's been like painful since 2017, man.
I know it really has. But that to say, man, we appreciate the loyalty when you're watching those 2007 playoffs. Who stood out? Let's say beyond the pizza line. Obviously, everyone knows they were the 1, 2, 3 in scoring in the playoffs. But who else really jumped out? Which players did you, relate to?
Yeah, so I'm odd and a little different than that pizza line I love, but that wasn't even the reason I actually became a Sens fan. Like, I really liked watching Emre, obviously. Just his energy and how he played. Different, like usually you don't see a guy in the NHL hacking guys in the back of the legs in front of the net. Like, I was a really big fan of. I liked Mike Fisher, obviously Chris Neil. Chris Neil is my favorite grinder / enforcer to ever play in the NHL. And then I really, really liked Volchenkov. They just had a bunch of good defensive defensemen and shot blocking machines. Volchenkov, Corvo, guys like that.
Yeah, love that. Those are goalie's best friend. Eh? You mentioned you played Tendy growing up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, hey man, we saw you at the game in Winnipeg last year. You're buzzing. You love getting out there. Is that something you do every year? Where else have you had a chance to see the Sens, if anywhere?
Yeah, I try to go every year. I didn't catch you this year, but I went this past year too. Looked like we had a chance, but slipped away there. I have seen them then obviously in Ottawa, going on that trip there, and that's it. I've been to the Rogers place in Edmonton and XL Energy Center in Minnesota, but Ottawa wasn't playing in either of those games.
But you made your first trip to Ottawa this season, right? Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was a top 2 for me out of the 4 I've been to. Like, I had a blast there. People say like, oh, it's an older rink. I think it was one of the biggest rinks, if not the biggest rink I've ever been in. Yeah, the fans were great. They went 2-1 when I was there. Everyone was having a good time. They're coming back. Like, when I was there was a lot of pretty full barns for the most part. I took the shuttle from the Glebe the one day.
Nice.
That was yeah, it was awesome. I really liked it. The only thing I'd complain about is sometimes if you're in the downtown core of Ottawa, it takes a long time to get there. But once you're there, it's great.
Yeah, I love the CTC. As I've said on this show before, I wish you could just take a plane, clip some strings to the top of the building, and reposition it a little bit downtown. But I think there's not a bad seat in the house, and it's definitely a great place to watch a hockey game. So, which games did you go back to Ottawa for? You said you went 2-1. What stretch was that during?
That was the Detroit, Nashville, New York Islanders stretch at the start of December.
So that was the Norris goal in the final minute. Was that the biggest pop you've ever heard in a barn when the Sens scored?
Yeah, that was pretty wild. It was fun too because I'm used to always being in the barn where there's less Sens fans, and I'm in Winnipeg or whatever. And it was cool. It was a special moment. Everyone was juiced up, and honestly, that was kind of at the start of when Allmark got on that good run. Like, when I was watching him, he looked really sound in net, and he was a lot of fun to watch too. So.
Speaking of Allmark, we're hoping he's back soon. He was seen practicing, so that's a good sign. He's on the road trip with the boys. Ross and I have had this discussion, and I think it's an interesting one. What do you do when he's healthy? You got 3 goalies, Allmark, Forsberg, Levy. Levy's been playing great. I mean, yesterday, obviously not his best performance. And then Forsberg's kind of found his stride again. Again, not his best performance last night either, but it wasn't anyone's good performance last night. But what's your approach when Allmark's healthy and you've got 3 tendies?
So it's interesting right now, I think, just because of how unstable we've been in the crease with staying healthy. I think they do need to find a way to keep all 3 of them. As much as I would like to say Forsberg could be spendable, I don't think you can get rid of him at least till this off season. I think as of right now, what I'd do is you either have to send Forsberg down on a conditioning stint that he'd accept, which I don't know if that'll work or not. I'm more in the position of you send Merilainen down. I don't think that'll hurt him. Once you get Allmark back, if Forsberg's playing very bad the games that he needs to play, where Allmark's tired or back-to-back, then I think if Marilinen's doing good down there, then you bring him up. Then you have to make the move on a Forsberg on sending him down. And maybe someone will pick him up. Maybe they won't. But that's just my plan. I think because then you can protect all three. And then if it doesn't work, you might have to lose Forsberg.
Hope you're enjoying our chat with Rudy. We'll get right back to it. But first, Pilsy's got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
Yes, this episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings. Those green numbers are in your account ASAP. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or betting on the Chiefs to finally lose in the Super Bowl or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this NFL playoffs unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Yeah, I'm so torn on this one, especially because of the injury to Matt Sogard. I just feel like you need some depth in the organization, but you need that depth making $2.75 million and not being able to win hockey games is kind of the issue there. But Rudy, I see all these jerseys in the background. I see a Chris Neal. I see a captain. I know you sent me a picture of your newest one. What's your collection looking like?
Yeah, so I got this Chris Neal jersey here. That's my favorite one. I'm gonna get it framed sometime. Actually, I got this with it, so it's like a certificate of authenticity from
Nice.
the team. And that's a 2014-15 playoff jersey. Then I got Brady Tkachuk jersey. And then I just got this one in. I really struggled on who to get on it, but I went with Batherson, so I hope he sticks around. But then over in the corner, I got the old 3D Centurion. I got a Carlson jersey, and then I got it's a pretty nice jersey, but he didn't stick around for long. I got a white road Matt Duchene jersey.
Nice. And is that a red one above you there? What's that one?
Oh, I forgot. Oh, that's a outdoor.
Oh, nice.
Iron. Yeah, that's the Heritage Bobby Ryan.
That's awesome, man. How long have you been collecting those for? Clearly a while if it's a 2015 playoff jersey too.
Yeah, I have a few buddies that do it, and I got into it kind of with football, baseball, and hockey. I'm trying to slow it down now, but I started in 2016. I started collecting jerseys.
In your opinion, what's the best Sens jersey? We had this debate on our Ring of Honor, and it was pretty contentious. A lot of people went different ways. What's your all-time favorite?
I think it's just because I've seen the most success in it, and like Carlson flying around with his flow and Chris Neal beating the wheels off guy. I really like the 3D red Centurion one, but I also really like the white in the 2D. Like if I could have it my way, I'd have that old red 3D back and then the white, but it's tough because the black's nice too. I'm going to go with the 3D red Centurion, I guess.
Okay. That's I don't think that's a popular opinion. So that's a funny one. How would you, there's rumors that the Sens are working on a reverse retro jersey. How would you design that? Like what color, what logo, like what are you putting together for the ultimate reverse retro jersey?
I'd like to see them do something with more gold on it. Like something flashy, like, and I love the laurels. Like get those all over it. The logo, I don't know if it's too soon to have a 3D again. I don't know. I like the silver O, but then it's nice when the team's doing really well to have a 0 on the front of your jersey. Like, yeah, I'd probably go with something like they used to have it with the Senegoth, like that, but like with the newer 2D look for the logo. But just get a bunch of gold on there, black and gold and red. A little bit more red, maybe.
Yeah, like in my mind, red, 2D logo, gold laurels.
that, that would be flashy. And then matte red at buckets or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
Oh, the
I
red
mean,
buckets. Nice.
you're putting together like 3 different eras there, kind of.
But that's why it's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think
Okay.
we're on to something here. And you know the next jersey is going to be red. It has to be.
It has to be red.
It's been a while. You'd think so. Yeah.
You know, the Sens are the only Canadian team that wears black at home, though. I think that's kind of cool.
Well, and that's why I don't want them to go back in a way, because it's like, okay, we have black now and no one else is. Everyone in Canada is kind of red almost.
Yeah, or at least colors, right? Like Vancouver wears blue at home, Edmonton wears blue at home, Calgary wears red, Montreal wears red, Toronto wears blue, Winnipeg wears blue. So it's kind of nice having a little distinction in our nation's capital. Rudy, final question for me, man. What do you think this team needs? Like, would you be patient if you're Steve Staios, or would you be pretty aggressive here, maybe even before the 4 nations, trying to add something to the roster?
I do think we need a top 6 player to play with Timmy, or just to try to balance things out. A lot of fans aren't going to like what I think, and I'm just like looking at it. If I was actually in that front office, I think they need to be very careful on what they do, just because everyone wants the playoffs this year. It's been a long time, but like, I don't want to sacrifice the next 2-3 years where I think we're going to be really, really good just to maybe get an 8th place spot this year. I do think that only add if it makes sense. Otherwise, you're going to have to just figure it out and hope the guys can figure it out and sneak in, because we've had really good stretches of hockey mixed in with some poor ones too. So
no rentals for you? Is that the vibe I'm getting? Like, you're looking for someone with term?
Yeah, no rentals. Like, I think with all these teams in the mix right now, the price is going to be high for everyone, right? So it's pretty cool. I can't remember the last time I've seen this. Like, it'll be an interesting trade deadline if it stays this jam-packed right to the deadline.
Yeah, it's a lot cooler when you are at the head of the pack of teams. If we're in Pittsburgh's position, just 4 points back, I think we'd have quite a different tone on how we appreciated this playoff race.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I'm not saying don't add it. Like, if you can get something for the right price, do it, but don't do the old sometimes Pierre Dorian and just overspend.
Makes me think you're saying that first round pick's untouchable this year.
100%, especially because I don't think we're going to get that pick back from the league.
No.
Well, a final question for me then, Rudy, is about that pick. How do you decide when to give it up? Like, if the Sens make the playoffs this year, is that like an automatic, okay, give it up this year and take it next year? Or do you just want to try to kick that can down the road in hopes that maybe you can change the decision, or just try to get draft picks in your system to get prospects going as soon as possible? How do you approach that?
I think we need prospects just because our team's really young, obviously one of the youngest in the league, but our prospect pool isn't too deep or great right now.
No.
It is risky if you get into the playoffs, but yeah, I think we need to kick it down the road. I'm not saying kick it down the road to the last year, but say next year we get in and we're in 5th or 6th place, give it up then, you know? I just don't think this is the year.
It's got to be this year or next year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm reason I thought we had 3 years left. Okay. You know what? I honestly, I'd roll the dice and next year, I think I'd kick it down the road till next year.
Okay.
Maybe ask for the old extension if November doesn't go well next year too.
Yeah, why not?
Love it.
Give it to us.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, they owe us something because this is ridiculous. But hey, this was great. We appreciate you jumping on, man. Really, really great insight, and love how you're repping the boys from out in the prairies. I mean, Sens fans, I think they get a bad rep in terms of, you know, how widespread they are. But when we have people like you on, it really puts a face to the name and shows that Sens Army expands way past the 613 area code. So thanks for doing this, man. Really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you next year in Winnipeg. If not, the Stanley Cup Finals.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I know. Thanks. I appreciate it, guys. It's been a long time coming. Like, I've been listening to you guys since the SensCentral days. So.
Oh yeah. That's awesome. Ooh, man.
Mad respect for that.
How did you find it then?
So just a big Sens fan. I just wanted to find some Senators content, and you guys, there wasn't many podcasts then, but you guys were the best one, I thought. Yeah,
on SoundCloud.
Yep.
I was having different career right now, but I would be going to my welding job and I'd be listening in the morning and be like, hey, this is Sean Donovan. This is the guys at Sens Central.
Yes.
For me, guys, you should just play that like one episode. Just
We'll try to find it.
Yeah, the lost files. And it's so frustrating because during those Sens Central days, when we had like my mom and you listening, it was like it was only on SoundCloud. And then I don't know if I had like a 30-day free trial or a 3-month trial or whatever, but all those episodes disappeared. And those are the only playoff games we've ever covered together.
Yeah. I liked it. Like, I don't know. I'm happy you guys are on Locked On, and you guys are awesome. Like, to stick with the team. That's what I like about you guys. You always are covering the team. Like, I love the team, but the amount, I think you guys have more podcasts out quicker than almost anyone too. So yeah, you guys definitely deserve a good string of success here in the future. But the Sens Central, though, that was cool. Because I thought it was kind of just like you guys sitting around talking about the team, the way you guys had it then. But yeah, it's pretty cool how it all comes around.
Oh, sure does, man. We appreciate that little bit of nostalgia there, Rudy. Thanks for doing this, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, take care, guys.
All right, Pilsy. So the Ottawa Senators now sit with a record of 24-19-4 on the season. That is good enough for the first wild card spot, but it is a complete flurry of teams right behind them. There's 4 games on the NHL schedule, but 2 in particular we will be paying very close attention to, and another one that we'll be watching from the outside saying, wouldn't mind if the Florida Panthers lost that game. A lot more unrealistic than the other 2, but hey, every team in the East, when they're playing the West, we're certainly on the West bandwagon.
West Coast, best coast, except when they're against Ottawa.
Yeah, exactly. That's just it. So with that, the games that you will be paying attention to tonight will start at 7 o'clock Eastern. You're rooting for the New Jersey Devils, who are home favorites to the Boston Bruins. And yes, that means tomorrow the Sens will be playing the Bruins on a second half of back-to-back. So there's no excuse for tomorrow's game in Boston. We are waiting to find out the goalie for the Bruins tonight, Pilsy. There is a chance that we get Eunice Korpisalo tomorrow.
I mean, obviously that would be a juicy story, but Ross, I mean, the Swayman chance have worked out for us, and I don't know about his numbers total, but it seems like the Sens have been able to pop a bunch of goals on him, so I'm not too worried either way.
Yeah, Ottawa's done okay against Swayman. Not great, though. Swayman's, look at this. He's only got 2 regulation losses in 9 games, but he's 4-2-3. So he's got 4 wins in 9 games against Ottawa, a .912 save percentage and a 2.93 goals against average. Give me Korpisalo just for the storyline.
No, I'll definitely take Corpy over him, but I'm not saying it's the end of the world if Swayman gets in there.
The other game we'll be watching, and I really hate doing this, but Sens fans, we have to root for the blue team tonight. I hate doing it, but I will do disgusting things for the Ottawa Senators to make the playoffs. And tonight it's cheering for Toronto because they have to beat the Columbus Blue Jackets in regulation. Columbus would jump Ottawa with a victory tonight. So it's not even like, oh, ha. No, this is a critical game for the Toronto Maple Leafs to win.
Ross, we talked about this and I thought you had this figured out. You phrased it all wrong. We are hoping the Columbus Blue Jackets lose.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
to whoever they play.
We're hoping the Columbus Blue Jackets lose.
So we're cheering against Columbus and Boston tonight, and to a lesser extent, the Florida Panthers, who are in LA to take on the Kings. Still no update, by the way. We are recording 11 a.m. Sens skate at 12:45 today, so follow us on Twitter at SensCentral, and we'll get you updates at practice, including we're wondering about the health of Josh Norris, Pilsy. He left last night's game, came back for a minute, and then what went right back and left was ruled out for precautionary reasons. And Travis Green said they'll know more tomorrow, which would be today on Wednesday.
Yeah, I gotta assume it's a concussion thing, Ross. The
not a doctor.
Yeah, not a doctor. And I said assume. the clip that's going around shows him kind of tripping in center ice and kind of hitting his head a little funny. So you got to assume that's what it's for. And the New York Rangers broadcast, when TSN had to switch over, they mentioned that Jensen left the ice not putting any weight on his leg. Did he come back, or did we get an update on that also? I don't think I saw him the rest of the game. I mean, mind you, it was late in the third.
Yeah, it was late in the third. I think there's just 2 minutes left. So, I mean, he's also missed a couple practices for maintenance day. I think he's been playing banged up for the last little while.
Yeah, so that's not good if Norris and Jensen go down here.
No, the infirmary can only get so full, man. It's tough. But hey, every team's going through it. The compressed schedule with the Four Nations tournament is creating, I think, some chaos here in the National Hockey League. But you got to play the games that are ahead of you. And in the last 19 games, Pillsy, the Ottawa Senators have been good, not great. And that's why we need to focus on the good. We'll start with that. The Senators are having a decent stretch, 11-6-2, with 14 out of those 19 games on the road. Once they play in Boston on Thursday, that's 15 of their last 20 games on the road. And right now, their record on the road is 8-5-1. They're 3-1-1 on home ice. But what really kind of blew my mind here, two things. First one, they've got an even goal differential, despite having that many more wins than losses. In those 19 games, they've been shut out 4 times, all in the last 10. And they have 4 shutouts as well.
From 3 different goalies also. It's weird times in Ottawa. But Ross, it's the record that I'm most concerned about. But I am concerned about sustainable success based on the way the top point producers have been playing in these last 19 games.
No points in Brady Tkachuk's last 8 games. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that's the longest point drought of his career. He's got 4 goals, 3 assists in his last 19 games, albeit 2 game winners in overtime. So he has been contributing in different ways, but unfortunately, the puck has not gone in for him the last 8 games. Claude Giroux, 2 goals in 19 games. He's more of a disher. He's actually second on the team in points over this span of 19 games. I don't have to keep mentioning. It's 19 game sample size if people forget. I feel like I've said it a million times in the last couple minutes. But guys who need to step up include, but are not limited to, Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stutzle, Josh Norris, Drake Batherson. Your 4 highest paid forwards outside of Claude Giroux.
Yeah, I mean, Ross, if before we sorted this on NHL.com, I would never have guessed that the top 3 point producers in this 19 game sample size.
How many games?
Would be Shane Pinto first. He's got 7 goals, 6 assists, 13 points, a +9 in that stretch. Claude Giroux, 2 goals, 10 assists. And Jake Sanderson, number 3, 1 goal, 9 assists. That is just so surprising to me. And I think you really got to look at the play of Tim Stutzle, Batherson, and Brady, like you mentioned. And the fact that all of them are under 10 points in 19 games it's not going to cut it. And the goaltending and the defense has been much better, but eventually you're going to have to find ways to outscore your problems, because there are a couple of other issues, Ross, that I want to get to in a moment.
Okay, well, what are they?
Well, the big issue, Ross, is I also sorted the same dates. So this is from December 13th to today in team stats. I think you know where I'm going with this one, Ross. I sorted the power play percentage. The Ottawa Senators are 29th in the league in power play percentage in that sample with a 13.7%. They're in between. Well, surprisingly, Colorado is right above them with the same percentage. But the New York Islanders are the next team below them. So we've talked about how bad the New York Islanders power play has been. So to be attached to them is not good. And 13.7%. This team's only scored, I believe it's 7 power play goals in that stretch. So it's been tough sledding here for the Ottawa Senators with the man advantage.
And they don't show on NHL.com how many shots on goal you have on the power play, but that in itself would be a disgusting thing to find out. They have 1 shot on goal in their last 5? It's 5 power plays now. 1 shot. How is that even
I think
possible?
That's right. Yeah.
And didn't that go in? Yeah, that was the Boston game. So that was 6, but they scored on their first shot on that one, the important one there in the second period that tied the game back up at 3, where Sanderson's shot got tipped by Josh Norris. But they need to do something different. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a power play expert, but doing the same down low cross ice play all from the same side, you're very predictable on the power play.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it in the postcast, Ross, and Jack mentioned it. I think they should try switching up the power play units just for sake of change, right? Like you got to do something. I like having G on that top unit. Now I know that was done because Norris was out of the game, but just having that ultimate opportunity to win that draw. Claude Giroux, in the sample size we use, is 55% in the faceoff. So winning that draw is just so crucial to the Sens' success. So get him out there facilitating, and yeah, they have to find ways to make change on the power play.
And Brady's been like in the mix. Like he's playing hard. I'm gonna give him some credit defensively too. Like he has been playing well defensively, but he needs to score for this team to be successful. It's as simple as that.
Or at least Ross gets some assists. Like his line is just not doing much when he's out on the ice.
As Rudy said, man, they got to play Stutzle and Tkachuk together. They have to. I just don't get it. It's been too long of a and the decision might kind of be made for them, although they could put Pinto there. But if Josh Norris can't play tomorrow, Brady's going to need a new center. Like that line, like think about it. Brady and Batherson, 2 goals in this long. What's he got in the last 8 games? Because I'd imagine it's one goal, maybe. I know he's had a few assists recently, and he has played well defensively. That Islanders game, I remember giving him a lot of credit for the way he played in that game. But yeah, 1 goal, and it was against Pittsburgh. So 1 goal from Brady and Batherson in the last 8 games.
What about going back to if Norris is injured? We hope obviously that he's all right. But what if they go back to Brady, Pinto, Greg, and then you do Batherson, Timmy, Giroux?
Yeah, I mean it's okay. I wouldn't like. I would just put Timmy between Brady and Drake.
Yeah.
And then mix it up. And I don't think we've seen much of Pinto and Giroux. We know they work well in the power play together.
Yep.
They got to figure it out and shoot the puck. Those are my final thoughts. Shoot the puck. We'll have a game day preview tomorrow. Pilsy, your final thoughts on today's show.
Yeah. Well, final thoughts for me, Ross, is I'll stick to what I've been covering for my final thoughts. And we haven't had a lot of prospect news, so let's brighten it up with some prospect news. You know where I'm going. Blake Montgomery again. I mean, he scores it's a 5-2 loss to the Kitchener Rangers, but this is now a 13-game point streak for Blake Montgomery. So at least there's a bright spot there for the Ottawa Senators.
Keeping the Alexei Yashin trade tree going. Yashin gets traded for the draft pick that becomes Spezza. Spezza gets traded for Nick Paul. Nick Paul gets traded for the draft pick that becomes Blake Montgomery.
Wow, love it. Okay.
So that's going back to the 1993 or 1992. What year was Yashin drafted there? He was drafted in the 1992 draft. So going back to the Senators' first ever draft. Or no, second, because 91 draft would have been Daig. Because they came in the year, or no. Yeah. 93. Sorry, 93. They tanked for Daig in their first year. Yashin was their first ever pick.
Okay.
We got there. So that's kind of crazy. The first ever draft pick for the Ottawa Senators, the trade tree is still alive in the form of Blake Montgomery.
Love it.
All right, that's it for us today. For more, check us out on Twitter at SensCentral. Please subscribe everywhere you get podcasts. Game day preview tomorrow, postcast tomorrow night. We are in the thick of the busiest stretch of hockey this season for the Ottawa Senators. For today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.